All right, Vivian, are you still there?
Yeah.
It's great to have you on the line. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Likewise, thank you.
Well, we'll get started and talk about the new album, the Last in Line album, Heavy Crown. What are the listeners in for this time around?
Well, this is an interesting project for us. It kind of grew out of a jam session. It's myself and Vinny Appice and Jimmy Bain, who were three-quarters of the original Dio band with Ronnie Dio back in the 80s, and we wrote and recorded the first three Dio albums with Ronnie, Holy Diver, Last in Line, and Sacred Heart, and we've named this project Last in Line after that second Dio album. So this is, it was a fun jam session that we had in 2011 that led to this. We ended up finding this great singer, Andrew Freeman, who is powerful and passionate and sounds nothing like Ronnie, which is actually what made this possible. It would have been weird and creepy if he had walked in and started cloning Ronnie. But, it's an interesting juxtaposition that you have the classic musical sound of the early Dio records, but a singer who has a different tonality and a completely different take on things. And it's our first record of all new material, and the album's called Heavy Crown. It came out last week, and we're super excited about it.
Well, I know you haven't been in Dio, obviously, since back in the 80s, but was it easy to kind of get back into things with those guys after so many years?
Absolutely seamless, yeah. When we first started jamming together again in 2011, it had been 27 years since we'd played together, and it was instantaneous. I mean, the chemistry was undeniable. It's like riding a bike, We started playing, and we all just immediately got excited and got goosebumps, and that's how we decided to actually take it a stage further. And it was Vinny Appice. He suggested we should find a singer and just for fun. At this point, we were still just thinking that we were going to jam in a rehearsal room, and he called down Andrew, who was a friend of his, and when I first heard Andrew sing, that's when I had the epiphany. I thought, this is great. I mean, it's the sound of early Dio, but the singer makes it his own and takes it in a whole different direction. And so my first suggestion was, let's just go out and do some local LA area gigs, and just for fun, and that was our ambition. And I said, let's call it Last in Line, because this was about a year after Ronnie had passed away, and so we really were the last in line. We were the last remaining members. And the other thing was, because Ronnie had passed away, it kind of, in a way, to me, made it possible. If Ronnie were still out performing as Dio, I would never have thought to do this project either. But the fact that Ronnie had gone, I just felt that it was kind of okay for us to just go out and play these songs, because what a lot of people don't realize is that Jimmy Bain and Vinny Appice and myself, we wrote those songs with Ronnie. We weren't just, hired musicians, so we were very much involved in the creative process of those early Dio records, and so, it's our heritage as much as it was Ronnie's to go out and play it. So we went out there and we just had limited ambition, like I said, and did some shows, and a couple of years later in 2013, we were offered some shows in the UK and Japan, and off the heels of that, we actually, completely unexpected by us, we got a call from Frontiers Records in Italy, and they offered us a record deal to write and record new material. So that wasn't something that we'd been thinking about, but when given the opportunity, we decided to take that step forward.
Yeah, that is awesome. I got to ask, of course, it was sad to hear about the death of Jimmy. Will you guys continue on with this band and tour, or will you replace him, or maybe call it a day, or what are your plans?
Well, that's the thing. It's a bittersweet time for us because Jimmy passed away at the 11th hour. This record was actually in the can and ready to go a year ago, and we all decided to sit on it because we all believe in it so much and believe in the project that we wanted to give it the best possible opportunity, and we wanted to wait until all our schedules aligned that we could tour the record. And we had a tour planned. We were supposed to be on tour right now, but Jimmy passed away, so it's very bittersweet that this album comes out, and it's been getting great reviews, and that Jimmy's not here to see it, especially when we had made it so that we could actually postpone the release just so that we could tour. We canceled the tour that we were supposed to be doing now out of respect to Jimmy. We will, however, honor a couple of shows in late April and late May, a couple of festival dates that we were booked for. We don't know who's going to play bass for us for those shows. We'll figure that out in due course. But we do believe that we owe it to ourselves and to the record, and especially to Jimmy's memory, that we get this out and have it heard, because Jimmy really believed in the album. It was his sole point of focus for the last few years, and really helped him overcome his demon. and become sober in the last year and a half. And I think it was through the focus he put into making this record that he finally overcame that. And he really, like I said, he really believed in it, and we do too. So we'll do what we can, but I don't know what our long-term plans will be. I guess that really depends on how this record's received.
Sure. Well, I want to ask you some of your memories of playing with those guys in Dio back in the day. I mean, you guys put out some great albums and, some important albums. And I know you and Dio kind of had your issues here and there, but overall, was it a pretty good time being in that band back then?
Yeah, I mean, musically it was great. The original Dio band was stellar. It was really unfortunate that the wheels fell off. But, creatively it was always easy. It was always fun. I had the hardest time listening and reconnecting to that music for literally decades afterwards, though, because of the way things went down. I was fired from the band in the middle of the Sacred Heart tour, which was the third album and tour that we did in 1985. And then it really left a bad taste in my mouth, the way that things came out then, because it was portrayed in the press for many years afterwards by Ronnie and Wendy Dio that I had actually quit the band and that I'd turned my back on them, and that was absolutely untrue. I never wanted to leave the band. And so it really, like I said, it really poisoned me from not only my Dio heritage, but that genre of music in general, and I kind of, turned my back on it. And I know I was guilty of saying some nasty things about Ronnie in the press, as indeed Ronnie was guilty of saying some nasty things about me, and it's never a good idea to air your dirty laundry like that. But hindsight is 20/20. I'd like to think that if Ronnie were still alive and he and I bumped into each other in the street, we'd go to the pub and have a pint and maybe even make a record together. But that'll never happen now, unfortunately. Ronnie always wanted the band to be a band and to write and to create as a band, and that's what he told us the first night that we first met in late 1982 in London. And I don't feel that his manager had the same vision. That his manager Wendy always saw Ronnie as being a solo artist and always wanted to push it in that direction. And ultimately, that's, I think, what in a nutshell led to my leaving the band, my getting fired. It was never quite the same. I think chemistry, when you have something great, when you have four musicians who really work together on a performance level and a writing level, I mean, it is something very, very special, and it's not something that's easy to replicate. And I absolutely love the sound of the early Dio records. It's taken me a long, long time to reclaim my heritage in it because of the way things went down. And like I said, the bad taste that it left in my mouth. But through benefit of experience and whatnot, I've been able to come full circle and look at this in a different way and realize that it is my heritage and Vinny's heritage and Jimmy's heritage as much as it was Ronnie's, and to embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to ask you, Vivian, every time I have somebody on that's been involved, the hearing aid sessions, I got to ask your memories of working on that.
That grew out of an interview that Jimmy and I did for KLOS, the local LA station, and it was right after We Are the World had come out. And I remember the DJ asked us, he said, so how come no one from the hard rock community was asked to participate in We Are the World? And Jimmy and I looked at each other and we thought, well, it's typical, like, even though rock and heavy metal and whatnot at that time was selling millions of records, it was a very popular genre, it was still shunned, by the mainstream and wasn't accepted. You wouldn't win a Grammy for a heavy metal record or anything. And Jimmy jokingly said, it just totally fell out of his mouth, he jokingly said, yeah, we should do one of our own. He said, we can call it Hearing Aid. So we just thought that was a hilarious title. And at the time, Jimmy and I were roommates. We were living together in an apartment in LA. So we drove home from the station and got back to the apartment, and we actually looked at each other and we thought, you know what, let's do this. Let's actually see if we can make this happen. So we wrote the song that night. We wrote the music for it. We took it to Ronnie the next day. At the time, we were in the studio making the Sacred Heart album. And at first, Ronnie wasn't interested at all because he was so invested in writing, finishing up the Sacred Heart record, writing the lyrics, and he was producing it also. So he had a lot on his plate. And about a week or so later, he kind of came around and he says, okay, let's see if we can make this happen. So I just, through the help of a lot of different people, I got whatever phone numbers I could garner, and I just started cold calling people I didn't know. Hi, this is Vivian Campbell. I play guitar with Dio. I tried to explain what we were doing. Is there any chance you're going to be in LA in these dates? And So, and called in favors, got free studio time, got free accommodation, free transportation, and we made it work. And it was so much, it was so difficult logistically to pull all that together, but it was amazing that we all did in the end.
Well, and other than the Last in Line Heavy Crown album, I know you were in Def Leppard as of recently. I don't know, are you still with the group now? Or?
I am, indeed. It's been 24 years, yeah.
Yeah, I got to ask what it's like joining a group like that. I mean, after the Hysteria album and Adrenalize, those guys were probably one of the biggest bands on the planet.
Yes, that was an interesting time. You know, when Steve Clark passed away, about a year after that, Joe called me up and said, you know, they'd finished the Adrenalize record as a 4-piece, and they were going to go on tour, and the band had decided that they would need a second guitar player. And would I be interested in meeting them and talking about it? And I said, sure. So we got together and we played, and it's like a courtship. It wasn't an audition where you just go in and play and sing and see if it works. It was more about personalities, and you know, it's a very tight-knit band, so we really had to see if we kind of could get along with each other. And the only one that I had a personal relationship with at all was Joe. I didn't know the other guys at all. So we really had to get to know each other, and we'd go to dinner, we'd play football, pick up games like soccer together at the weekends, and then we'd go back to the studio and jam. We even went to the movies, you know. So we're really just getting to know each other's personalities. And the playing, you know, they knew, because they knew my work with Whitesnake and with Dio, obviously, so they knew I could play guitar. What they didn't know is that I also could sing, which was a very pleasant surprise for them, because Def Leppard is such a vocal-heavy band, so I think that was a big plus. You know, but we both parties decided it was going to work out, and like I said, it's been 24 years, so the longest I've ever been in a band. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it seems like you've played with just about everybody. Of course, we mentioned Dio and Def Leppard, Whitesnake, Sweet Savage, of course, even Thin Lizzy for a while. I mean, is there anything left that you want to do, or anybody you want to collaborate for sure?
Well, of course, yeah, there's always stuff there. You know, I firmly believe you are what you do, and I'm a musician. First and foremost, I'm a rock guitar player, but, you know, music to me is like food. There's more than one type of food that you enjoy, so there's more than one kind of music. So I enjoy, you know, doing projects on every different level and with a lot of different people and exploring different genres. But I think it's safe to say that the thing I do probably best and most naturally is play angry Les Paul, you know. So, and that's what I'm doing on this Heavy Crown album with Last in Line. You know, I come back full circle to my roots, and it's been a joyous experience to rediscover that.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I got to ask you, Vivian, health-wise, is everything good? I know you had a bit of a health scare back a couple of years ago. Or?
Yeah, I'm still dealing with Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's been 3 years now. But, I mean, to be honest, my health is the least of my concerns. It's in check. I'll probably be dealing with it for the rest of my life. But it's fine. You know, I'm one step ahead of it. I was very fortunate to get diagnosed reasonably early. I have good health insurance. I got great doctors, so I'm staying ahead of the curve on that. You know, especially in relation to someone like Jimmy. You know, Jimmy, we thought he was suffering from pneumonia. When they did the autopsy, they found out he had chronic lung cancer, and he didn't even know it. So obviously he had cancer for years and years and years, and it was eating away at his body. So, you know, Jimmy didn't have health insurance. He was, like many people in this country, unfortunately, you know, just on the fringes of it and just struggling to get by. So in context of that, I'm just so fortunate, you know, and I'm not at all concerned about what's going on with my health, least of my concerns.
Yeah, that's great to hear. You caught it early and are you know, going on. And of course, Last in Line, Heavy Crown is out now. And is there anything else maybe in the works? I know you mentioned you're still in Def Leppard, or any other stuff you're working on?
Well, Leppard will be touring this summer. We'll be doing some shows from May onwards through about October. With Last in Line, I really don't know what our long-term plan is. It depends how the record is received. The first opportunity, outside of these two festival shows in April and May, the first opportunity for us to do anything again would be the end of the year, like November and December. I don't know if we will or not. It would be nice to. We'll see if the record's well enough received, if there's enough interest. 2017, who knows what that's going to bring. I mean, probably another Def Leppard record, to be honest. And maybe, if there's, like I said, if there's interest, another Last in Line album. You know, that's kind of enough projects for me for now. That'll keep me busy, you know. There's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, Vivian, it's been an honor speaking with you, and thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Dustin. Cheers. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.